Hello, everybody, and welcome to the inaugural broadcast of Living Astrology Radio live on Facebook. I can't tell you, I think if I used the word excited, I would be minimalizing what I actually feel about this because it's the first time. It's exciting and new, and it's something Jason and I have wanted to do for a long time now. But we couldn't figure out the technology, and then suddenly, as the world always does this to me, into my lap falls the technology right when I needed it. And so sitting here to my left today, temporarily, I don't know where Jason will come in and be in the flow of things here, but sitting to my left right now is the author of the book, The Ego's Code, which I think you can see off to the right, Clayton John Ainger. And Clayton, thank you so much for joining us and playing in this experiment with us today.
You are very, very welcome. I love pushing boundaries and, going against the status quo. So, hey, we're here. We're going to have some fun. So thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
I'm really excited to have you here. You are of like mind. You are a kindred spirit. I wouldn't be surprised after the week I've had to find out you and I are actually really related. It has been an extraordinary week. I know you probably don't know much about astrology, and you really don't have to, but understanding that we actually live our astrology. And this has been one of those weeks where the planet Mercury, which rules our communication and transportation, turned from retrograde backward motion into forward motion. And usually that creates this sort of rush of energy for us as things, sort of switch gears. And oh my God, it opened up a world of weirdness for me. I think I have Jason here. I'm going to take the book down for a moment and see if I can't get Jason into the broadcast here. Just one moment. And so there has been, is he there? Is he there? Okay. There he is.
Hey,
there's
Jason.
Our Jason. He's chewing on something. Can you hear us? Jason, can you hear me? Hello? Well, hopefully we'll let him get the sound worked out. All right, now we hear you.
We can hear you, sir.
Let me chat with him and tell him we can hear him so that he doesn't say anything gross. Not that he would ever do that. Okay, he went back out. So let me, finish just this thought about weirdness in that I actually found out yesterday that I have 8 brothers and sisters that I never knew I had, all because of a DNA test that I had done through ancestry.com. And I was pissed off when I got the results because, and you're going to laugh at this one, it showed that I was 72% British. Like that's where my ancestry came from. Even though I have a Native American grandmother, my mother was full on Dutch, and all of that was such a small percentage of my overall DNA. And it just drugged me into this whole thing about I am not who I thought I am. And so challenge number 1, right? The next thing I know, it's telling me, oh, this person is very closely DNA matched to you. And I'm looking at that name going, well, that sounds familiar, but I don't know why. So I reach out to him. Turns out he's my brother. He's a half brother. And he has 7 siblings besides me. And so my whole world is rocked in this Mercury day gone forward, where suddenly all this new information is being drugged into my being. It's like, I don't know, have I been living in some kind of alternate universe or something where, things were not what they seemed. So it's exciting.
That is amazing.
Yeah. So that's why I say maybe you and I are actually related.
Maybe we are. In the UK, we have this amazing program called Long Lost Families, and people actually go in search of family who they have not seen. They know that are there, and they haven't seen them for years and years and years. And often they meet a brother or a sister, and when they meet a brother or sister, they find out that they have siblings. And it was just on last week's program that this one person found out she had 12 brothers and sisters. Very similar to what you're talking about. It's just incredible stories that come out. So
It is
I love that story.
It is extraordinary. It's stuff that you just don't, think is going to happen, and then suddenly it happens. So, but we are
Welcome
not
to being British.
necessarily. Yeah, I'm more British, it said, than the people that live in Britain now are British.
That's fantastic.
How does that happen? I mean, come on.
Oh my God.
It's fun. It was eye-opening and magical, and I love those kinds of things. And I also love bringing people like you into the audience for Living Astrology, even though today's talk has nothing to do really with astrology. There is something really magical in the work that you do. But because you are completely new to not only myself, but to my audience, I'm going to give you a couple of minutes, Clayton, to tell us a little bit about you and how you came to write the book, The Ego's Code.
Okay, so my name is Clayton John Ainger, and I live in a beautiful place called Bristol in the UK with my beautiful wife, Lindsay, and our daughter, Isabel, who is nearly 14, and it's just crazy. And well, my journey, so I'm a creative entrepreneur, so I run a consultancy business here in the UK with my wife. I'm a psychic medium, and I read for people all over the world. As I was saying to you off air, everyone, people between New York and Australia, most countries in between. Funny enough, I've spent the last 2 days beautifully in spirit, helping people to take clarity on blocks and overcome, overcome blocks and formulate goals to help them to rise up. I'm a speaker, so I'm an international speaker. And funny enough, I am going to be in New York on the 5th of November, speaking at the New York Open Center there. And I'm coming to Canada in December as well. So there's amazing things happening. But where did my journey begin? So if I used to be an accountant and tax consultant, specializing in mergers and acquisitions and corporation tax, and I just really didn't enjoy it. To be frank, I actually hated it. I wasn't particularly good at it. The reason I did it was because when I was studying accountancy, I was actually very good ironically, at tax, and it just didn't fulfill me. And I joined the professions for the wrong reasons. And now, if I think about the journey that I've been on, if I look back over my life, I pretty much sabotaged nearly every area of my life.
Yeah.
I've sabotaged our business. We will grow it up, and then I'll sabotage it because of fear of success. I would get super healthy and fit. And
Whoa. Did you say fear of success?
I did.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Carry on. Jason and I had this conversation this morning. Exactly that, about the fear of success.
I can see his face. And then I would get super fit and healthy, and then I would stuff my face with chocolate to soothe an unknown pain. I would, I piled on so much weight. I went up to 252 pounds.
How tall are you?
Say again.
How tall are you?
How tall am I? 6'1".
Yeah, that's pushing it. Yeah, I'm 6'1". That's pushing. I'm at 220 right now. I'm feeling like a fat hog. But that's besides the point.
Yeah, I was a bit of a chunky monkey, as I used to say. So,
that's an ice cream pie.
I'm not going to touch that. That's a different show, Janet.
Oh, okay. Carry on.
So, there's been these times in my life, I've sabotaged myself spiritually. I sabotaged myself financially. And, I look back at my life and said, why am I doing this to myself? Why am I actually doing this to myself? Because, there's been times where I've been depressed twice in my lilife, my 20s and my 30s. And I thought there's something going on here. There's something bigger than me that actually taking place. And then 12 years ago, I was very fortunate, just under 12 years ago, to meet my beautiful twin flame soulmate, Lindsay. And just all the stars aligned, for want of a better description. And we actually met in Colorado and the US, and we actually only lived an hour up the road from each other. So there was some real magical things that were happening around that. And, and she encouraged me to come out into the world and to share my story. And she was in the US one time, and And when she was in the US, I woke up one morning and I was being poked by the divine to go to Stonehenge. And I lived just up the road from Stonehenge, about an hour away from Stonehenge. And 45 minutes from
You can't
Glastonbury.
use those
Beautiful.
kinds of analogies around me, poked by the divine. I'm sorry. I'm the wrong dude. You know, that's just not fair. She told me to be good and not use any curse words. But if you're going to pull shit like that out, I mean, poked by the divine? What are you having, like the alien sex thing? What's going on?
All right, we've lost control, Clayton. I'm so sorry.
Oh my God, that's hilarious. So after I was poked by the divine, I went to Stonehenge, and
Was it good for you at least?
Oh, it's amazing! It was just amazing. It was just incredible.
Good.
It brought a huge smile on my face. And then this is a rabbit hole we don't want to go down.
Right.
And then
Depends what you're into.
I was at Stonehenge and I went into meditation, and just 3 words that came through: the ego teacher. And the days and weeks and months that followed that there was guidance that came in saying that people don't truly understand the purpose of the ego. They don't really understand the real reasons why we experience negativity, because spiritually negativity is not negative. So what then happened was I started to do, to write. I'd run some events and I was learning about my work and that kind of thing. And then I started to read more and more and more and test different parts of the content that was coming out. And then I experienced extreme procrastination and fear around writing my book. And I didn't actually do anything with it for about eight years, verging on 10. And I thought, I know what I'll do. I'll invest thousands of dollars in somebody who will help me to write my book. And it was an amazing journey in terms of writing the book. And the first draft of the book I wrote, and it was just rubbish. It just, my Jewish student wasn't right.
Love it.
And so what happened was I sat on it, and I created being busy in my life, and so much procrastination that was around. And then my publisher called me up and said, hey, if you want your book to be published this year, this was the 30th of January, we need the final version by the 28th of February.
I'm curious. At what point when you were reading it were you like, wow, this is a load of shit? Because I'm sure, like, when you're writing it, I'm more interested in the process part, because I come from an opera background where it's really all about, with the singing. But I mean, I can imagine sitting there as a cogent individual. I too have worked in Goldman Sachs. I mean, I know what kind of assholes you guys were. I used to assist them.
So let me answer that question.
Mergers and acquisitions. So I totally get it.
Let me answer that question. So the answer to that question is that the first draft that I wrote from a place of intellect, as opposed to, what I thought people actually wanted to hear, as opposed to actually, and then when my publisher came to me and she said, look, I need need the final draft by the 28th of February, so 4 weeks later, I literally threw out the first version. I just threw it out and started from scratch. And I just went inward. And I channeled it in 4 weekends. And it's and then my beautiful wife said to me, and she said, so why are you asking other people to read it rather than me? The person who knows you the best, the person who's the closest to you. And I said, I'm terrified of what you're going to think. And she just said, well, give me the book. And she actually read it through the eyes of a reader. And she gave me 140 review points. And I went through each one, which is about, and it really helped the book to expand out in terms of meanings and definitions. And it was just a beautiful contribution that she gave. And so then the book went out into the world. And the feedback that people gave me has been incredible. It's won 6 awards in the US, including the International Best Book Awards for spirituality and psychology and mental health. And it's just been a beautiful, amazing journey. And because, it's my truth that's in the book, my truth at that point when I wrote the book. And it's to put some of the stories in there were a bit high risk. And, and I said, okay. And at the time, it was very interesting. We spent a lot of time working in corporate, with our consultancy business, and hardly any of the CEOs and senior leaders who we work with knew that I was a psychic medium. And it's all over the book, and so that was putting it out there. And actually, people admired the truth of that coming out. And we actually got more and more busy off the back of it. And I actually read for those CEOs and people now privately. And, so there's, some amazing things that came from it.
Isn't it amazing how things work out when you get in alignment with your authentic self? And I'm guessing that the first draft of this book was not you. It was totally not coming from the place that you got the download from.
Oh, yeah. And there was so much resistance to actually doing it and putting it out there. And I thought, well, if I invest in, lots of finance and money, then that's what will create it. And it was, and I learned some really valuable lessons around that creative process. And, to the point where, I honor my truth in all areas, and if I find myself moving out of alignment from that, I get poked from my guides. But I also get, my wife will often come over to me and question me and challenge me. Our daughter will question and challenge just to help me. And I've got people around me who really, help me to be the best person I can possibly be in this work and take it out in the world. And I want to honor everything that I'm doing and honor them as well.
Right. This is so extraordinary. So now let's take us to the book itself. And I've got a picture of the book. I'm not sure if I can show the book again. I can't because now we've got 3 people in here.
I can show them.
Oh, there, you've got it. Perfect. I'm going to hide your name for just a moment. So go ahead and show the book again, because then people can see the whole book. And can you go ahead and read for us the subscript?
Yeah, it's called the Ego's Code. It's about understanding the truth behind your negativity and really learn how to decipher your code and stop sabotaging your success. So what the Ego's Code is really, really all about is, and this is the thing that I learned from myself in my own journey, is that when we experience challenges in life, when we experience negativity, when we experience hardships, there is a reason to it. There's a pattern to it. And that pattern is a code, ultimately, which I call the Ego's Code. And if there's a pattern to it, the pattern can be unraveled and deciphered and to be able to use it as, in a way to serve us. So what I will say to people, when I'm speaking, I say, if you think about the energy it takes to put a rocket into space, if I said to you that you have the same energy that's actually trapped energetically in your lower 3 energy centers, and all you have to do is to allow that to rise up and to rise out. And the challenge is that we have been conditioned by society to ignore our negativity, to make the ego the enemy within and that kind of thing, as opposed to as a fuel, as a force for good in our life. And so I do challenge the status quo. I mentioned to you offline, I like to push boundaries. I don't particularly like to conform, and everything in my book is centered around things like neuroscience, psychology, as well as spirituality. And when people have read the book and given me feedback on it, they just said there's this unique balance across all 3.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so it's been an exciting journey to write it. It's been an exciting journey to promote it. And off the back of the success of the book, people came to me and said, okay, so what else have you got? And I said,
now what are you going to do?
So I worked with an amazing man called Barry Goldstein in Phoenix, Arizona, and we created a meditation called the Ego's Code Meditation, which is all about releasing the negativity, learning from the negativity, releasing the negativity and healing, the traumas of the past. And, and again, people who have done that, one lady sent me an email, very, very beautiful email, and just said, I just want to thank you for the Ego's Code Meditation, because she was going through so much trauma and challenge in her personal life. And she said she was doing the meditation every day, and it was the meditation that helped her to get through her days. And when you have those kinds of messages that come through from people, it just makes it all worthwhile. And then people said, would I run some events? So I wrote an event called a 48-hour ego and negativity detox. And I said, I will only go where I'm invited to deliver it. And a friend of mine, I've run them in Switzerland. I've run them in, so we did Switzerland, then we did California, then I did the UK, and then I did Denmark, and then I did Denmark again. I do a lot of speaking in London. I'm coming to the New York Open Center. I'm speaking at the Tree of Life Festival in the UK. a new event, which is the evolution of this event in Toronto, the 1st to the 3rd of December, where people really can immerse themselves in who they are. And then we're talking about doing some in Australia. Yeah, so it's if I think about where I came from as an accountant and tax consultant, unhappy and in mergers and acquisitions and those kinds of things, and doing things for the wrong reasons. It takes courage, and I encourage, I want to be like an inspiration for people to say, look, you can make changes in your life.
Absolutely.
You don't have to settle.
So let's start with the first chapter in the book, which really speaks to this idea of negativity, and is it really something negative? Is it really bad? So you put forth the premise, we all have negative thoughts, but what is it that those thoughts are showing us, and what can we do with them?
For people to realize is that when you experience negativity, all that it is, it's a message from you to you that something is not quite right or how you think it should be. And the challenge that we have from society and through generations is that we need to ignore it. It's a bad thing, so we should push it down. And so people push it down, they sweep it under the carpet, they ignore it, and then guess what? It escalates and it comes back more and more and more. And the reason for that is this, is that we are all on a soul's journey. And we're all energy, we're energetic souls, and we're traveling through life and experiencing life day to day. Every soul's journey has 2 or 3 core things that they need to learn on their journey that's associated with traumas that they've had in the past. And so, for example, mine has been about learning about self-worth, about being able to receive unconditional love and things, like that. So what happens is the soul goes on the journey, and based upon the traumas that we've had in the past. So when we have a trauma, whether that trauma be in this lifetime or previous lifetimes, it creates a tear in the soul, and part of the soul leaves and goes to a place in the consciousness where it feels safe. So you have this tear or this hole in the soul, and then that hole then gets filled with all the negativity associated with that trauma and gets sealed off. And people say to me, Clayton, I often feel like something is missing, and that's because something is missing. And then what happens is that at the point of incarnation, when we're actually born, the higher self, which is our true self that's omnipresent, actually splits in 2, and a little fragment comes off of that. And that fragment is the ego. So only 1% represents the ego self, and the ego gets programmed with all this negativity associated with that trauma. And it acts like a beacon, and it sends out a signal boop, 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 into the quantum field or the universe or whatever label you want to call it. And it attracts situations, circumstances, and people to you so that you can learn. And when we learn from our negativity, what happens is we clear this out. And as we clear out the void, it allows the soul to return. So when you experience negativity, and it's every single time you experience negativity, you're being triggered back to the past, and you're literally reliving the past in the here and the now. So if you're reliving the past in the here and the now, you cannot be present in your life, because you've gone unconscious. And so every time, so what actually happens in the neurology within the body is that when we're experiencing negativity, often we're in stress. And when we're in stress in the body, we are experiencing beta brainwaves in the brain. And the more stressful we get, the higher the beta brainwaves become. Once you reach high beta, yeah.
Let's go back to the very premise, because I don't think I know that I wasn't ready for that sort of wow moment, and you said it a little too dirty good, a little too like, here I am, Mr. Prophet, and what the fuck. Now, if I get it straight, Janet, like, could you repeat that back to him, Janet? Like what he said about the beginning part, because I did not, unfortunately, get to read as much as I wanted to about you and your process, but. Going back to the original idea, because Dr. Alexander Lowell had the exact same idea in the 50s with respects to psychotherapy. And I would go on about that if it was about this right now, but it's exactly parallel to what you were saying, sort of about the soul. Can you repeat this process by which the soul becomes damaged? I didn't get that.
Okay, so when you experience a trauma,
yes,
in life,
a lesson.
So whether that, so no, it's a trauma. So when so traumas can be as small as somebody screaming in your face and making you feel small,
yes.
through to some of the extremes. So you may have been killed in a previous lifetime or murdered in a previous lifetime.
Yeah.
If we're talking that kind of thing, right? So what happens is that level of trauma creates a tear in the soul, right? And it creates a hole in the soul. And part of that soul leaves and it goes to a place in the consciousness where it feels safe. So within shamanism, we talk about the world tree, and the world tree represents the consciousness.
So let me stop you right there. Your precept right off the bat is such that the soul is able to be damaged.
Yes.
Right. It's interesting that you say that, because Janet and I often talk about one of the books in my, like a real cornerstone in my metaphysical development. I come from a line of psychics and such, is such that Dr. Michael Newton, who is a very famous, as you probably know, psychotherapist and hypnotherapist, talks very much about this idea that souls get damaged. And when they go to the spirit realm, there are these maternal like energies that literally they go to a special place to get healed. Okay. So that they can become whole. So it's interesting to hear your take on it. And then, is your information channeled information, or how did you come by it?
So my information came through channeling at Stonehenge and subsequent channeling post that.
Amazing.
Got it.
Amazing. So now I get that whole idea, and things happening in our current life that create stress. Let's say, losing your home or losing a job or a child or a spouse, somebody dying close to you. All of these things have the potential then to create this negative energy, which can leaves a hole in the soul. Is that pretty much how things happen? And what can you do about it?
Okay. So what happens is that, we're all receiving feedback. Okay. So let me explain what I mean. So when you experience negativity, and I'll explain the whole process. When you experience negativity, what's actually happening is you're reliving the past in the here and the now. So whenever you are angry, sad, frustrated, experiencing fear, whatever those things are that's going on for you in that moment, you're not present. You're being triggered back to the past. And as you get triggered back to the past, you're reliving that in that particular moment. So you're actually not present in the here and now. You've actually gone unconscious. Okay. And psychology and psychotherapy, and I've been studying this for years and years and years, basically backs this up. Okay.
PTSD.
Yeah, so people experience all these stories, these voices in their head, and often I'll hear my mum saying things. And one of the stories I talk about in my book is that when I was growing up, if I was making some food in the kitchen, my dad would say, if you want to bring that food in the living room, in the lounge, you have to use a tray. And so then I would notice when I got to my 30s and my 40s, I noticed that actually I started to bring my food in on a tray into our sitting room, place it down on a footstool directly in front of the TV, and I had this overwhelming vision of, crying out loud, I've become my dad. This is not who I am. And and then my daughter Isabel would play with me and say, tray. So we have these messages, this energy that comes from the past. So sometimes, very simply, sometimes people have challenges around money. And people have often sort of said to me when I've been growing up, money doesn't grow on trees.
Yeah.
And as the money doesn't grow on trees, so what they're attaching to you is their own learning or their own challenges around that, but also the energy that goes with that, that's related to their own stories or their own traumas, and we take that on board as our own. So when we experience negativity, we're reliving the past. So what you need to do is get yourself back into the here and the now. So to get yourself back into the here and the now, you have to have awareness of what is going on for you, because you've gone unconscious. There's been a lot of studies that have been done that we experience about 95% of our day-to-day life unconscious. So by raising our awareness to our negativity and saying, okay, so my awareness creates presence, which brings me back into the moment and back into the here and now, but I need to ground myself into that. So to ground myself back into the moment, I need to give my negativity a voice. So many times people will stuff it down, ignore it. And so what I will do is I'll say to clients, okay, keep a journal. The new thing that we're doing is we're putting the negativity in a chair and having a conversation with it. And so it's not about living there. It's about giving it a voice, finding out what's going on for it. Why, what's the learning there? Because the learning clears out the trauma of the past, so the soul can return, so we can become whole, not when we die, but now in our own journey, in our own lifetime. So what happens is that we give it a voice and we express it. And one of the biggest challenges, say, for men in today's society is about expressing their feelings and expressing their thoughts. And, and same for women, really, truly expressing what's going on for them in that moment. And so sharing that and getting that out and experiencing true intimacy and true vulnerability. So what then happens is as you express and you start to, acknowledge what's going on and you're owning it, it starts to change the chemistry within the body. It starts to change on the neural pathways and brings you into the here and the now energetically. And then the third and most important thing is then you act for your highest good. You act and you make decisions for you. So when you actually start to act and make decisions for your highest good, what's happening is it gives you confidence to make more decisions for your highest good, and then more decisions for your highest good. And then what's actually happening on a energetic level is because we're all energy, because you're healing the past trauma, so you're changing your energy signature. So as you change your energy signature, the ego begins to shrink. And the meaning of the ego to me is about expanding your greatness out. So the ego begins to shrink. It starts to reconnect with the higher self. My energy, so then I've got more space to be able to experience more positivity and joy in my life. So then I get more positivity and more positive experiences in my life. And then I feel more confident to do it. But positive thinking alone doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
Because what happens is this. If I am, for example, thinking, I need more money in my life, what I'm thinking is I'm thinking from a place of lack. So if I'm thinking from a place of lack, that's what I'm sending out. And if that's what I'm thinking and my energy field is sending out lack, because my feelings are aligned to that, that's what I'm going to attract back to me. So what I need to do is I need to spend some time really clearing up my own energy about saying, okay, how do I really feel around money? So in my book, for example, on page 52, 53, there is an exercise which you can actually work through about understanding your relationship with money. So it brings it into your awareness, and then you can actually do something about it. If you just ignore it, it'll just perpetuate.
Yeah, and that I'm an astrologer, and Jason, he does tarot and spiritual coaching with people as you do, and that literally is one of the top problems that people present to us is that they have an issue with money. Their finances are in disarray, or they're living paycheck to paycheck, or they're just having big issues with that. So it seems that that's a dynamic that isn't just there's a lot of people with that particular negative response. And how, maybe tell us a little bit about that. You said page 53.
52, 53 in my book. It's all about helping you to understand your relationship around money. But here's the thing. It's not about the money.
Right.
The money is ultimately one of the triggers that's there. It's part of the pattern. It's part of the code. And it will be what I say cross-contextual in your life. So there'll be other areas in your life where you will be lacking something. But part of the challenge is we're focused upon the lack and what's missing, as opposed to actually, what am I grateful for? Every single person in life, I don't care who they are, has at least one thing in their life that they can be grateful for. And if they can focus on the gratitude of that one thing in their life, then guess what? It actually starts to change their energetic signature. And the 1% of the things that are missing in their life start to take care of themselves anyway.
Right.
Yeah. And I really journey around money. I spent a lot of time. I had hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of debt, and I realized in my own journey that what was going on with my relationship with money. And I remember when we first started in terms of our consultancy, I set my daily fee at £250 or $300, and I felt really uncomfortable with that. And I thought, oh my God, is someone actually going to pay? So look at it's all about value and self-worth. And then somebody paid it me, and then they said, oh, you should be charging yourself out of more than that. So I then I thought, okay, well, how much? And I felt nervous. How much should I now charge myself out of? So I put my fees up to £500, about $600. And then I felt the overwhelming anxiety around that. And I needed to spend some time understanding what was going on for me around that, and to change the energy around that, and to own my feelings around that and express what was going on. And then somebody paid it me. I thought, oh my, and then somebody else paid that for me, and somebody else paid that for me. And then somebody said, oh, you should be charging yourself out more than that. So I then put my fees up to like $1,000. And then I experienced the same anxiety between one to the other, but I was really comfortable at 500 now. So I thought, oh, that's really good. I need to acknowledge that. And then gradually over time, I then started just to continue to put my fees up, where now it just doesn't bother me, you know. Right. But what I do notice now is things around contracts. So, for example, I have a pain in my lower left-hand part of my back. So my body communicates to me 4 weeks in advance if there are problems or challenges coming up around contracts with clients. And so I'm then able in that moment, if I start to raise my awareness and say, okay, there's something going on here, it's feedback. So all it is just feedback. And then I need to look at areas of my life. I then need to look at my thoughts, and I need to look at my feelings, and then I need to clean it up. And then as I realized what was going on, I cleaned it up. And we had a client that I thought, one of the feelings that came up, and I shared this story the other day, was I just had this thought, this feeling come in my back, and I had this thought in my head, you know, why haven't our particular client paid our invoices? I thought, this is really odd. They're really, really brilliant, you know, it's a lot of money. And so I contacted them. So this was the feeling and then the thought, and they said, we haven't received them. And I said, well, here is the chain of emails with all the invoices that I've gone to. We've never had them. They're not on our systems. And I said, okay, so they're not on your system. So what does that mean? They said, oh, you got to wait another 3 months to get paid. And I said, well, I can't wait another 3 months to get paid because we got a team of associates that we need to be paying for the work. And so my wife, Lindsay, and I, we said, okay, well, we need to clean up our thoughts. We need to clean up our feelings around this and what's going on. And as we did that, you know, a client came back to us and said, okay, we'll pay you at the end of the week.
You know, what you're saying, Clayton, is that you have to take personal responsibility for what is showing up in your world. Bottom line.
Yeah. Bottom line. In terms of my own reality, this is the biggest thing that I've learned. In terms of my own reality and what's going on in my life, I have created that, good and bad. You know, I created the sabotage in my life. I created, you know, the trauma, the challenges in my life. I created the joy in my life. You know, and if I want to experience more joy, I need to create space for that by clearing the energy. Negativity is just energy. And all energy can be changed. It can be transmuted into something that will serve you and enable you to rise up, or it can keep you stuck in the past. And we are at choice with that. So the true one thing that we're born with is choice. But the challenge is the conditioning that we've had from life, society, parents, all those kinds of things, you know, school teachers, about how we should think, how we should feel, you know, and it creates like, you know, an overlaying perspective on who we are. And then we lose ourselves in the thoughts and the feelings of other people. And so then we need to pull away those layers and really start to explore who we are. So, for example, in my book, there's 16 exercises in the book, very simple, straightforward exercises, which are all about you discovering you and allowing your truth to come out into the world. And so part one, as you beautifully described, is all about raising your awareness and really understanding what's really going on. And then part two is about aligning to your truth and really starting to decipher your code. And, you know, and I talk about a lot in there around different stories that we tell ourselves, and, you know, and 8 truths of, you know, of living our truth. And then part 3 is living your truth. How do you go out creating new you? How do you go about embedding it day to day? So I wanted to create a process for people which was piecemeal and they could take care of themselves in that particular journey. So, you know, my book is available. It's on paperback, you know, on Amazon.com. It's also in a Kindle version, so they can get it on there. It's also now in audio, so people can download it from iTunes. They can download it from Audible as well. So it's available for people to be able to, and I want to make it really, really easy for people. And same with the meditation. Everything I'm talking about in the book gets accelerated through doing the Ego's Code meditation, which is why I created it.
You know what? There's a word that keeps coming up in my mind that I've recognized in the last couple of months. That is something that is an evolutionary impulse that's being created throughout humanity right now, and that is about releasing victimization. And I think that's truly what you've offered up here as a way to release yourself from being the victim into being sort of the driver of your own life. Is that accurate?
That is a beautiful way to put it. I was talking with a coaching client today and a mentoring client today, and we were talking about the environment. And almost every sentence that was being shared was how the environment was impacting upon it. And I said, so what you're doing is you are allowing the people around you, becoming entangled in their stories and and everything that's going on for them, and you're being entangled in some of the challenges that are going on with work. You're being entangled with challenges that are going on in the family environment, and you're becoming lost in that. And I said, so you are allowing your environment to effectively control you, but also create your personality. How about you take back your power and take back control, and you create your environment in the way in which you wish to create your environment? And she said to me, can I do that? I said, absolutely you can. Absolutely.
So how does one take back control of their environment then?
The first thing is make decisions for your highest good. Science is now proving that when we make decisions for our highest goods, we make a decision that serves us, then ultimately what happens is we then have the confidence to make more decisions and more decisions. And if someone doesn't like what you say or what you do, then that's their own stuff. And and if you make a decision for your highest good, you're automatically making a decision for other people's highest good. If they want to come with you on a journey, that's fine. And it's like I'll say to Isabel, my daughter, I said, look, so we have our garden in the back of our house, and your friend Natasha just down the road has her garden in the back of her house, and you both go and play in each other's gardens. But if one day Natasha doesn't want to come over and play into our garden, or you don't want to go down there and play, that's okay. You just got to make that okay. That's a decision that they've made. And so, you can invite people to come on a journey with you through life, but if they don't want to come with you, that's fine. You just allow them to have their journey. We can't control other people, but we can control ourselves and make choices for ourselves. But sometimes it takes courage.
It takes a lot of courage.
To make those tough decisions, because when we are experiencing negativity, what's happening is I keep going back to it, this is a communication from you to you that something's not quite right or how you think it should be. And it's coming from a place of service rather than a place of hurting you. The reason that people make negativity bad is because of the actions that are as a result of it, as opposed to the negativity itself. Negativity is just energy, and spiritually it's not negative. It's actually an opportunity for us to learn, to rise up, and to release that energy. So stage one, start to raise your awareness to what's going on in your life.
Mm-hmm.
Raise awareness to what's going on in your physical body. What's raising awareness to what's going on in your environment, and notice how that makes you feel. Does it make you feel good? Great, do more of it. If it makes you feel bad, pay attention to it and give it a voice. Then acknowledge how you're feeling. It's the biggest challenge for people, is they don't acknowledge what's really, really going on. Own it, acknowledge it, express gratitude for the fact that this feeling is coming up, so you can actually change your life. And then act. You have to act for your highest good, because when you act, that's when you actually change your brain waves, you change neurology, you change your personality, you change your energy signature, and ultimately will change your life. And you will get feedback straight away. You don't have to wait 3, 4, 5 months for change. You will get immediate feedback. And there's always a little story, if you don't mind indulging me in this story. There's a very, very good friend of ours called Diane Hunter, and Diane works with horses. She's an equestrian.
Mm-hmm.
And Lindsay, my wife, and I, we were in Switzerland at a friend's event, and Diane said, "Hey, would you like to come and work with the horses and play with the horses?" And we said, "Yeah, we'd love to. Never done it before. And Diane had never met these horses before, and she's in this ring, and these horses are literally dancing for her, and it was just such an incredible thing to see. And the biggest lesson for me was when she invited me into the ring. So she invited me into the ring, and I thought, hey, you know what? I'm going to get these horses to come to me. It's going to be amazing. And the horses moved away. It was really interesting. And the closer I moved to the horse, the further the horse moved away. And Diane said, hey, just pause a moment and just go inward. And she said, what are you afraid of? And I thought, in that moment, so intellectually, I thought, hey, I'm not afraid of anything. There's nothing going on. She said, no, just pause. Just go in, just close your eyes just for 2 or 3 minutes and just go inward. And I realized in that moment that there was a fear. And that fear was associated with horses because our daughter Isabel had fallen off a horse a year or so before, got trampled underneath it and broken a leg.
Oh, dear.
So I was reliving that in that moment.
And you didn't think about that before you got in the ring?
No, I didn't. Hey, it was part of Isabel's journey. It wasn't part of mine. I thought, okay, it's not mine.
Oh.
And then I got in the ring and I cleared that up. And then the horses actually danced with me and moved with me. So the reason I'm sharing that is because we have feedback around us. We're always getting feedback, good and bad, and we don't notice what's going on. So the more we raise awareness in our life, we actually start to see this feedback that's going on. And when we notice it, we can change.
Absolutely. I love that. And, you know, there's something that's really interesting that I'm going to bring out, Jason. I'm not picking on you, is that you mentioned that you had back issues and you related that somehow with contracts coming up that needed to be signed. Well, my little fellow friend here, Jason, has a lot of back issues. And how can he tap into what is being telescoped to him from his soul about his back?
So what I would do is with yourself, is to go inward and have a conversation with the pain in the back and ask the pain in the back, what is the message that, what is the learning that I need to get about this pain? And it will communicate with you.
Have you tried that, Clayton?
Unfortunately, some of this telecast is a staggering mess. So I'm smiling and looking pretty. I mean, you've got great teeth, Clayton. Don't misunderstand me. But I've been laughing the entire time because Clayton, and I don't mean to say that you're not original, but your platforms are quite, how shall I say, common with respects to myself and Janet, because we teach exactly the same thing, but it's like hearing a third, they say you can skin a cat from both ends. It's like a third end that we're skinning the cat. And to hear, I use the very same examples with, person sitting in a chair who has passed away. I do, past lifetime shit. So it's great to hear what you're saying. The entire time I've been laughing because I know that if Janet and I were on Skype right now in the corner, she would be just giving me the business. Today we had a coaching, Janet and I, together, and I came across an epiphany, a really hardcore thing. I almost didn't even come on the air today because I had just too much shit to process. But it's insanity, how in alignment every fucking thing you've said has been like, oh yeah, that happened this morning. Oh, wonderful, great.
Validation.
Very, very interesting stuff. Things that you said, and I wish I had known you when I was doing my broadcast on the death card. This card represents that fear. Do you see that dove?
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah.
Behind it.
Yep.
Okay, this is my death card, and it is the death of the ego is really what it discusses. It is only through the death of the ego that the ancients believed that one is able to then be in complete usage of his karmic, but moreover, his chakral system. The importance being that the initiate be correct and ready for this. Not everybody's ready to have every single fucking chakra activated. You don't just pow, or you can spontaneously combust. So I think for just it's true. So for everybody listening out there, yeah, it's great to face your fears and do all this stuff, but at a correct rate, at a healthy rate. And I'm a metaphysician, and I coach people all the time. And Janet said something to me that's been going, and pardon me, Janet, but I've been going up my ass like a hedgehog's prick sideways. She keeps saying to me, well, Jason, tell me, are you afraid of success? Now, when I hear people say this shit, I want to strangle them because I've used this before. I've had my psychotherapy. There's nothing new I have heard in these different dynamics. And every time I've ever heard that, Clayton, the answer is no. It doesn't ring true for me. There's no like, ooh, stentorian force of me digging in my heels. I'm, not afraid of it, so therefore I am. No. But I had a realization this morning that I was raised by victims, and how couldn't I, given their past? I was raised by victims. I go around and I teach the verbs, how we all lose our personal power, and victim is the first one of the verbs. So if you know Dan Baker, his book, which is pretty famous, What Happy People Know, granted it's frustrating, but I want to tell you, I realized this morning that here I am espousing, and teaching other people. Meanwhile, doctor, heal thyself. I found out this morning that I don't believe that I have actually glided past the whole idea that underneath it all, the scared little bitch inside of me is the one that wears the face of victimhood. I was raised by victims. It's in my DNA. I feel like a victim, and I have chosen fields that will allow me to victimize myself because they're so rarefied and difficult. So to hear your palaver, for lack of a better word, it blows my mind because it's so nice to hear it set with it. We're using the same camera, but all of us have a different lens that we're using. And to hear you come out of the blue, I have no disrespect. I know it's bad etiquette. I didn't read your book. I have had nothing but computer problems. I almost didn't make it here to this broadcast. So to hear you reiterate for the first time for me live on Janet's show, I'm like, whatever. Whatever,
So the first thing is congratulations on your breakthrough. No, seriously. Everything comes at the right time when we're ready to receive it and hear it.
Wow.
And here's the thing. When I am reading for people, when I am coaching people, when I am mentoring people, I am also noticing very, very quickly some of the patterns in the things that they are saying that I am sharing with them that are for me. And sometimes I'm there and I will have to just almost pause the session and just say, look, I'm sorry, I just need to step out of this a second, because I just got hit with a 2x4 between the eyes. All right, let me just make a note of that, and then I'll go back in because I know that there are things that are going on that come up for me.
I discuss this with Janet all the time. Ask her. The best psychotherapist I ever had from the years 25 to like 30, 35, she said, booby. 95% of this job is knowing my shit, your shit, and not projecting and doing all these other.
Completely right.
You got to know your own stuff in order to be able to be clear enough to be like, oh,
Exactly right. So how are you going to celebrate your awareness now?
No, I have not even. I think probably, and I won't lie with you because of the way I'm hooked up, I think I will probably first celebrate it with tears. I'm speaking to you right now in a numb state. Right now, it's like, my mother preached against drugs and alcohol and blah, blah, blah. And then I found out years later that she had her own Coke spoon. It's one of those Salvador Dali moments where your brain fries and watches are melting and you're like, what? Here I am preaching this shit, knowing it full well in my body. And then, holy crap, you've been a victim, asshole. You are a victim. You are a big, hairy, epic victim. And because you've been working so hard to not be a victim.
Guess what?
Well, let me ask you something. I'm going to ask you the question I asked Janet.
Hold on, Jason. Let him say what he was going to say.
So what I was going to say is this, is you've been spending all this time talking about victimhood and supporting people in your work around that. Besides the pattern of that, that's also the thinking that, and the frequency that you've actually been sending out into the universe, the quantum field, and that's been replicating back into your own world.
Thanks, Einstein.
Well, I'm glad you know that now. So now you can do something about it.
But wait, I got a question for you, oh guru with too many teeth. Actually, and for a Brit, I have to tell you, you have gorgeous teeth for a Brit. Let's get that right out there. You lucked out. So,
you're awesome. That's funny.
So I asked Janet, my human design life coach, and if you don't know anything about human design, please get in touch with her.
Oh, we've
And
already had that
fact,
conversation.
Yeah,
she is a master at mind mapping. So if you are needing guidance about the next book and how to wrap your brain around it, she has done this many times for many people. There's a Gemini weird scariness gene. But anyway, so I want you to finish this sentence for me. If I'm going to rewrite my script, right?
Yeah.
And I'm going to fill my hole, and I don't even really go towards that. Anyway, if I was to say the proper new neuro conductive transmitting reprogramming, and I was to say I am not a victim, but I don't want to use the word victim because that then therefore ipso facto puts me in the fact that I've agreed somewhere that I'm a victim and I'm working against it. What would you use as the antithesis for victim? I am
a creator of my own greatness.
Ooh, I like.
It's too wordy, darling. Less words, sweetie. Less
Okay,
words.
I am a creator.
All right.
I am an adventurer.
I'm a discoverer.
I'm a discoverer. There you go.
All right. So that makes a lot of sense. Janet, sorry for hogging.
No, that was
No,
awesome.
I love it. That was awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, but my main question about that, why we even drug you into this, Jason, if you didn't hear, was because
to expose me, I know.
no, it's because I love you. No, because you have had back issues, and so did Clayton, and he recognizes right off what that is telescoping to him or the message in it. And I was asking Clayton, how is it that you could get in touch with that in your own body? And
I wonder, Janet, because I've just now started the pursuit of a proper chiropractor, and something perhaps about this acknowledging of the scenario has now, I mean, Clayton, I have weekly coachings with Janet all the time, and don't misunderstand me, there are definitely epiphanal moments, but no disrespect, I canceled my show last night. In the entire time I've been doing this, maybe that's happened twice. And it's a weekly show. I was over it. And this morning while talking to her, I was still full of piss and vinegar. I was disgusting. And this epiphany came through because when I speak with her, something happens. A conduit opens up and we begin to channel. I never thought at all that I would be having that sledgehammer 2x4 that you were discussing hit me between the eyes. I was like, really? I'm a fucking victim? No. I would have thought it would have been the entitlement or the blame or the rescue theory. But wow. So I don't really think I am that afraid of success, Janet. I think I'm afraid to let go of the victim shit that's allowing me to be a success.
Well, here's my question is what would happen if you use that energy of the victim as a force for good in your life? How successful would you become then?
Unlimited.
You would go stellar.
Yeah, unlimited.
My favorite word, stellar.
Which, by the way, I need to pick your brain about, sir. I need to find a producer for metaphysical and or paranormal things because I've written a television show treatment. And I need to have it go in the right hands. That's something we can talk about after, but because like I said, this is not about me. So what is your next book?
My next book is going to be called I Am Worthy.
Ooh, I like.
Understand, the journey to self-love and self-acceptance.
I'm going to have to pick a different word, though, because you use the word ego, and not that I think it has a negative connotation. When I talk to people about we live lifetime after lifetime for the purpose of knowledge and love, you go up, you do your review, you come back down. The thing that discerns or that picks out my constellation of stuff, my clump of energy from Janet. Let me see if I can get a feel. Yes, from Janet's constellation of stuff and your constellation of stuff. When I talk to my clients, I discuss it as the word ego. See, because when these 13.2 ounces evacuate your body, there has to be a definitive factor of taking us and having a specifica around it. That specifica is the ego. But when I heard you talk about the ego as being this beacon of sort of anxietal light to pay attention to in order for you to grow, Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yep.
So I have to figure out a better word than ego. Identifier shit, maybe.
Maybe. A friend of mine, actually, I was reading for her the other day, and she talked about a Freudian slip. She sent me an email and said, "Oh, I'm reading your book now, The Soul's Code."
Ah,
And I thought, wow, okay.
Yeah.
And I thought that's really, really interesting in terms of, because the ego and the higher self are one and the same thing, and they emanate both from the soul. So well, that was really, really interesting. So
absolutely.
I have some new work that's coming out around that as well. So
I love it.
You know, Janet, we should have a 4-way. We should. Let's try this again. We should get Tim Ray on the line.
Oh, yeah.
I think the 4 of us would be. You can't hear? Are you done?
No, I hear you.
Yeah, I think he's saying he can't hear.
Oh, he can't hear you. I can hear you.
Did we go over the broadcast, over the time limit or some shit?
I don't know. Jump back in. Go out and jump back in.
Me?
Can you hear me, Clayton? No.
You.
Hello?
You're back.
There you are. Hello.
You're back.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, now we can't.
Hey, there we go. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. Sorry about that. Somebody tried to call me on Skype. I don't know why that was.
Well, I got to say, we've already taken up our hour. I can't believe how time flies when we're having fun. But because this was meant to be an hour, I don't want to take you over, and I know how busy your schedule is. So let you give us some information. How can people find the book? How can they find you to do some work with you? Do you have a website, etc.? Give us all that good stuff.
Okay, so my website is claytonjohnainger.com. And everybody, I would just love to invite you all to join our community. In the 1st of October, 1st of November, 1st of December, I am giving away a free new meditation every month for people, for those that join the community. So it'll be amazing for people to join. There's other free goodies and stuff. There's a newsletter that comes out once a month. There's like a Friday night firework, a boost for the weekend, which people can also receive. I'm also on Twitter. So if people contact me on Twitter, they get daily messages on frequently throughout the day around the ego, around negativity, around working with animal spirits, around working with runes, and all sorts of messages around quantum physics and neuroscience and how it impacts and helps the body. Mm-hmm. People can follow me on Facebook. In terms of my book, people can get my book on Amazon.com if they're in the UK or in Europe, around Amazon.co.uk. It's available on Audible. It's available on iTunes. It's also available as an ebook. And if people want the Ego's Code meditation, they can also download that from Facebook. They can also download that from iTunes and also Amazon as well. So it would be amazing to connect with people and for them to join our community. And if you want to come and see me in New York, so there you go, Jason. You're just around the corner for me. You come to the New York Open Center on the 5th of November and spend the day with me.
Baby, I was there to help open that center back in the
there you go. Come and play.
Exactly. I will absolutely think about that. That might be fun. I don't really go into the city anymore, but that might be a reason definitely to get together. Janet, thank you for letting me get in on this today. Even though it was just a technical, but it works. We know that it works now.
It does. It works beautifully, and with just a couple of glitches, everything's been really good. So, Clayton, let me just say thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you for being open and willing to play with us in this new realm of doing radio on Facebook. And I really would love to have you back on the show sometime and talk some more, because I have this list of questions that I got to maybe 2 or 3 of. There's
Please, I would love to do that. I would love to do that.
We'll get that on the schedule. Jason, thank you for joining us. This has been Living Astrology Radio live on Facebook. I dare say we will try this again because it's been fun and kind of, I don't know, exciting. We can actually see each other and interact. Join us again next week. Next week, Living Astrology, I will have another guest on. The author of the book called The Sunshine Code, not The Sunshine Code. it's not code, but let's just say it is about how dealing with your family issues of alcoholism and drug abuse and so forth affects our lives and how we can work through that. The author's name is Jody Prowse, and we're going to do it just like we did today with Clayton. So join us here on Facebook Live, 10 a.m. West Coast time on Thursday, September 14th. Can't believe we are in September already, guys. It's just flying by. Jason, I love you. Thank you so much for letting us air some of your stuff out. Clayton, wonderful to have you as a new friend, and I look forward to talking to you again.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody. Thank you for having me. Love you guys.